This is an example of NPoint. NPoint is a multifaceted, extremely configurable piece of software that can be used for preview, trimming, segmenting, and in some cases, editing. What I've done here is I've added a video window. This is a preview example. It's a pretty simple implementation. I've added a little video window over here on the right so you can see the cause and effect of the machine control. Traditionally, what you'll do is come up and choose from one of many different decoders or devices that you might want to control. And then choose from a drop-down list the selection of available material. In this case, I'm going to pick this clip, which I call the Dancing Lady. Now, the buttons that you see here allow you to fast forward, play, jog, shuttle, and they're emulated on the keyboard. So if you like, let's go ahead and play Dancing Lady. And you can see on the timeline here that she has started moving as well as in the video. I'm going to click the stop button, and you have other options here where you can jump to time codes based off a mouse click into the timeline and play from there. Now what you can see here is that I've made a few simple modifications or additions, configuration changes to the previous endpoint, and now I have endpoint with trimming functionality. Trimming is something that you might run into if you have a bunch of clips that don't start at the first frame of video and don't end at the last frame of video, something that you want to go through and have a different start time and a different end time. I still have Dancing Lady here. I can go ahead and play her. And supposing I find a place where I actually want the clip to start playing from, let's say the clapping hands part. If I stop that and I come down and I mark the endpoint, you can see it's now got the time code that we see up there. It's also edited the duration. If I go to the end of the clip and start playing from there and say, hey, I want her shoes to be the last frame of video, I can mark the out point, and you'll notice that the duration has changed. When all is said is done, I go ahead and click the trim button, and now notice that this has been added to the timeline. I can jump back to the in point, and I can jump to the out point, either there or there. And now here's an example of endpoint being used as a segmenter. Remember, this is just adding more functionality to the product you've already bought. You can incorporate them all into one. It's just a little bit easier to understand and operate if you get them broken out a bit. This particular one is used for people that have multi-formatted shows, such as 3.5 Men. That comes in and it has 4 different segments in it. You might not have any use for this at your location, but if this is something that you have an interest in, just go ahead and watch and we'll see how this is done. Now we're going to take our lady show again, Dancing Lady, and we're going to load her up. And you noticed I've moved things around a bit to make it more convenient for the people using the software. And in segmenting, what you'll do is, again, jog and shuttle and try to find that first frame of video. And there's clapping hands, so we'll say we'll back her up a bit and find that first frame of video, and we will come over to the right here and we'll mark the segment in. And you'll notice that up here it's put an in point. And up in the timeline, it is marked an endpoint also. So let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit and try to find a spot, let's say this one. And we'll say that's the end of segment 1. So we will mark the segment out, and it updates the time and the segment info, and it updates it up here. Let's go ahead and do another one real quick. We'll fast forward to some place that we want to be the in point for the next one, and we'll say mark segment in. And then we'll fast forward again. Normally this would be where your segment end, your commercial break starts. And we'll say mark segment out. When all is said and done, we would click the save button, and that would add it to our database. Later, when you told it to play segment 1, and then if you'll notice, I'm going to click on the inside here, it goes to the beginning of segment 1. If I right click on it, it goes to the out point of segment 1. And so on, in and out. Well, that's about it for endpoint. Thank you for listening. If you have any more questions, please feel free to call Inversion and we'll give you even more information.